Brad, an update on Daniel Wells.
It's the same message really. We'll see how he trains today, and if he trains well, he'll play.
What's your gut feeling though before training?
I've got no idea. No, I mean it really is. I mean there are a couple of guys we're watching closely today at training, and they're clear to train. So hopefully that means they'll get the medical tick off, and then the coaches will watch how they go about it. And if we think they're right to play, then we'll play them.
Does it take special significance given that it's Indigenous round, and clearly he's really keen to play, basically because of that?
Yeah, I think that he's obviously desperate to play, but he's desperate to play last week too. So it's just one of those things that we won't take a risk with him if he's not quite right. We've said that all along. But we're optimistic he'll train well.
I know you obviously respect every opponent, but is it fair to say this is your biggest test, biggest game so far this year?
Yeah, well, they're playing really good footy. They're a pretty formidable opponent at the best of times. So, yeah, it's going to be a really good challenge, but one we're up for.
Do you treat it almost like the start of a new season, this sort of the next month?
No, we're really strongly focused, as we have been all so far this year, of achieving the benchmark of 12 wins. And once we get to 12 wins, then we'll reassess from there. And can't get to 12 wins till we get our 10th, and that's our aim this week.
Back six has been defending incredibly well. Are they excited with the prospect of taking on Buddy Franklin?
Yeah, and 5 or 6 others. Franklin's obviously a really dominant player, but I think Isaac Heaney's as good a young player as there is in the competition at the moment. They've got a lot of weaponry up there, and we're going to have to be our best defensively to combat that.
With Buddy, Brad, is he more than one player on his own can handle? You need a couple of people to rotate on him?
I think the way a lot of teams play these days is it's a defensive unit, and you tend to roll over a little bit. But no, we'll have some specific plans in place, as all teams do for Buddy, and what history says is they don't always work. So we'll have multiple options there for us, and he's a really good player and can play different styles, so we'll have to be prepared for all of that.
Could Robbie Tarrant get a crack at that, Brad?
I'll be part of it. I mean, it depends where Franklin plays. He's so versatile. He gets up and down the ground really well. So, depending on where he's positioned at any given point, then it'll be might be Tarrant at various stages. It might be others.
It sounds like Drew gets his neck checked periodically as a matter of course. I think there's some pictures of him yesterday with Peter McQueen, a specialist. Is he 100% fit for this weekend?
Yeah, look, it was just a precautionary check-up with the specialist. The specialist gave us some great news. You might have seen last week Drew took a chest mark low down and just jarred his neck a little bit, so we're just getting it checked out, and he's 100%. We'll train fully today, and no worries with him.
Mason Wood gets through training, Brad, will he come straight back into the team?
That's a really good question. It will probably depend on the availability of others. We've got a few guys that we're going to keep a close eye on, but he's certainly right in he'll be in the 25, no doubt. And then we've just got to work our structure based on the rest of the players' availability.
Ryan Clark, is he edging closer to debut?
Yeah, another really good game on Sunday against Sandringham. I was really impressed with the way he went about it, and he's showing some really good signs. But if Wells comes back this week, that's another midfielder, so it'll probably make it difficult for him this week. But we're delighted with his progress.
Sam Wright?
Yeah, another one that we'll watch. Could have probably pushed him last week to play, but the philosophy of just making sure that everyone's 100% meant that he missed out. So he trained Monday, looked really good. So I expect him to train well today and come into selection calculation. But you can see that we've got a few that we're waiting on at the moment. So hand on my heart, I can't tell you the makeup of the side right at the moment.
His ankle's lingered on for a while, Brad. What's been the exact problem?
Oh no, it's just a significant ankle sprain. So sometimes they take a bit of time, and other times you can push on with them. And as I said, if we really pushed him last week, we probably could have played him. But we've got others who are playing well, and we're in a position where we can just make sure he's 100% right before he plays.
That old footy expression, Brad, never as good as it seems, never as bad as it seems. Is it as good as it seems at North? I mean, how much better can you get?
No, we haven't played our best footy. I mean, last week was a step towards that, I felt. I thought it was a really complete performance. But no, we did it under a little bit of duress in terms of availability of our list. We had a few players go out. We've got a lot of injuries in the same position. That Higgins, Garner, Turner, Anderson type positions. So we had to shuffle a few things around and still perform pretty well. So there'll be a lot of challenges put in front of us between now and the end of the season, and so far we've adapted well to them, but there are some big ones coming.
Ben Jacobs has done some handy jobs on Dan Hanbury in the last couple of games against the Swans. His unavailability, Brad, how much does that sort of change your plans in the midfield?
It's probably similar to last week in terms of not having Jacobs, so we structured up a little bit differently. But we think we've got a pretty deep midfield, and certainly so have Sydney. So Hanbury's a really good player, but when you look at Parker and the job Mitchell can do, and Kennedy's been a stalwart for them. So I think it's going to be two pretty deep midfields going at it.
Just away from your club for a moment, is there now categoric evidence that there's a rule of the week in your mind?
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous to suggest there isn't. There's a memo that goes out that says this is what we're focusing on. So if you don't want to call it rule of the week, what would you call it?
How often does that happen where you get a memo like that?
Oh, a few times in the year. I mean, earlier in the year it was we're really watching blocking in a marking contest. So what happens? The blocking in a marking contest free kick count spikes by more than 2.5. It's like if you tell a player that we really want to focus on kicking short this week, if we've got a player who's long and free, they'll kick it short. If you tell an umpire this is what we're going to focus on, what do you think he's looking at in the marking contest?
Do you think it's fair? It's such a seismic shift, isn't it, with specifically deliberate rush behind on the players to change it so radically mid-season?
Yeah, they're usually pretty adaptable to rule changes, certainly at the end of the season, but to suggest there wasn't a crackdown on deliberate rush behinds is just ludicrous.
You said on radio during the week that you had an hour match committee meeting just over that. So from your perspective and the way you're spending time, would you just like to see these things addressed at the end of the year?
Well, at least when you do get a memo, you can put your life on it that they're going to pay one. So when there's a memo that says we're going to look closer at rush behinds, deliberate rush behinds, they're going to pay one. So we just had to make sure it wasn't paid against us.
How frustrating is that, though, that these things keep happening mid-year?
Yeah, it is, because as I said, coaching is, you've got to be really careful about what you focus on, because if you focus on something, with our players, you hope you're going to have an impact. And I just prefer the umpires coach has said, you know what, we're going to focus on this week with just the rules. Just going to focus on the rules, and we're going to judge every contest in isolation. And if we see a free kick that's there, we're going to pay it. We're not going to be looking for something specifically.
I think you can only take it 1 week at a time, Brad. You touched upon this earlier about how after you get the 12 wins, you'll reassess. But does your good start now potentially give you the ability to freshen things up going into the finals, having that earns you that ability to be able to do that, like from a planning perspective?
I think we're way too far out to do that. We haven't earned anything yet. I mean, as I keep saying, historically 12 wins earns you the right to play finals. So until we tick that box, then there's no point looking further ahead.